Exercise 5-3 is going to require a little bit more than exercise 5-1, but we're going to follow the same process for everything that we've done. Now, following the tutorial for how to set up your isometric, make sure that you've changed your polar O-snap settings to 30 degrees and track using all polar angle settings, and that you've set your grid up as an isometric grid, or the isometric snap. Now, for this one here, we're going to have to do it a little bit differently, exercise 5-3, because it's multiple features within the same thing. It's not just one simple piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down by section. On my frontmost plane, I have that L shape. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that L shape. Coming out along my 30 degrees, I go 60. I can then go up 30, back in 15, down 15, and now that's going to come all the way back out here to the edge. That is what represents the frontmost plane for this particular object. Now I'm going to go ahead and repeat my line command, and I'm going to do the rightmost plane. So this goes over 30, up 25, and this is going to come back in 10, down 10, and that's going to close off. Now I can begin working on the rest of this piece. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to draw this top edge back, and this top edge goes back 20. After it goes back 20, it goes up 10, and then it goes back over 10. So now what I'm working on is that back profile. This comes over 40, down until it meets the projection of this at 30 degrees, and then this closes off. Go back to my line command. We're going to make this edge solid. And what you can see starting to happen is you can see this thing starting to take some shape. So now we'll go back to my line, bring this to here, and then forward. This one here is going to come out to this point and then close that off. This will come up to here and close that off. And then we have another line segment that goes back to here to create that last segment. Once again, we're just drawing the things that we see, and in this particular case, as far as the isometrics are concerned for this week, everything that you're going to be doing when you're done, it should look identical to the picture in the book. So now I'm going to go ahead and center this piece. And again, I'm just using the diagonal line method. It's the same method we've used since the beginning of the class. So now this thing is nice and centered. I can delete all of this, and I need one more line that forms this edge right here. And the reason I could tell I needed one more line is because looking at the book, I saw that I didn't have all the lines that I needed. So now we're ready to begin dimensioning this, and again, it's just aligned dimensions. So first let me go to my dimension layer. And the icon for aligned dimensions is this one right here. So we're going to want to do this 60, this 30. For the 40, what you're going to notice is I'm going to project out to here to get that 40. And I'll show you why in a few minutes when we begin to oblique these. Bring up that 40. Here I have a 15, and notice again I'm projecting to get that 15. There's my 25. There's my 30. That's all the dimensions that are required for this particular piece. Now, when I go to dimension oblique, I'm going to do this in a slightly different manner than I did the previous one, because I know some of these dimensions are going to fall on the same obliquing angle. The 15, 25, 40, and 30 are all going to be on this angle here. The 60 and the 40 are both going to be on this obliquing angle, and the 10 and the 30 are going to be on this obliquing angle. So rather than do it one dimension at a time, I went ahead and did multiple dimensions at the same time. Now, the reason I did this 40 like this and left a gap and the 15 with the gap, had I brought this all the way to that edge, what I would get is something really weird and obscure. So the reason we use the projection, even though we end up with this really big gap right here, we get the appropriate dimension. Then we can just go ahead and draw a line, making sure to leave a slight gap where that line is supposed to project to. So now that I've got all of my dimensions in here, this one actually does not require a whole lot of cleanup. In fact, this is pretty good the way it is. So at this point, this one here would be considered complete. I've got all my dimensions, I've got everything I need. Now, one thing that you do have the option to do, there are a few dimensions missing on the assignment, which previously discussed. This is 15 right here, and this is 15 right here. So if I were to dimension those, I would go from here and then project this back to get my 15. Set that up to be oblique, and it's going to be on the same angle as the other two. And I'm going to move that just so that it looks a little bit better. Now, the way that's obliqued, it can't line up with this, so maybe I want to oblique this in a different direction. So I'll oblique this instead of this way, we'll go back this way with it. Now, that kind of messed up the whole thing, so maybe in this case it's best to undo before you oblique. So here we'll oblique this one here back at this angle. Okay, now we have a 15 that we can work with. I'll move this to that midpoint and draw a line in here to represent where that is actually coming from. And as far as this 15 right here is concerned, I'm going to do this just the real simple way. Put the 15 in, do an oblique dimension, and set that thing to be straight up and down. Now I'm going to move this down just a little bit, and I'm going to leave it right here on the object. If I bring it up off of the object, then I run the risk of running into another dimension and having to move a whole bunch of stuff around. So for this particular case, we'll go ahead and leave it like that. And once again, develop your isometric, center it up, put all your dimensions on, and then set all your dimensions to be oblique.